Is there any way to paper copy of the agenda? Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Well, it is 5 o'clock. So does somebody have an agenda in front of them?
I got an agenda in front of me.
All right, great. You want to take the lead then, boss?
Only if you never call me boss again.
Okay. All right, chief, go ahead.
Now what did I do with it? There it is. Oh, damn it.
You bet. There we go. We got one on the board. Fantastic. All right. City clerk, do you want to take the roll?
Done.
You already done did it? Did we get any word from Councilman Johnson?
I've not heard from him.
Okay.
Let's see if he's online.
Huh?
Let's see if he's online. He's online.
Well, then that would explain why we didn't get word.
Yes.
All
Can you
right, so
promote
then
him?
everybody's present. Then first things first, if you can see it, let's do agenda approval. Did anybody have any problem with the agenda? Councilman Johnson? I'm gonna take that as a no. All right, all those in favor of the agenda, say aye.
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 Go. And the minutes from our last meeting a couple weeks ago on the 8th, any problem with those?
No comments or alterations.
Okay, is there a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, let's move
Aye.
on to, oh wait, no, we skipped public comment, didn't we? How'd we manage that? Is there anybody in, I don't see any public people in the building. Is there anybody public online? No? Okay, well then we'll move on. Agenda bills, item number 2, AB 23-094, Fourth Amendment to the Comprehensive Garbage, Recyclables and Compostable Collection Agreement with Waste Management. Thank you. Who's talking to that?
I believe I am. My name is Brian Halverson. I'm here from King County. There may be city staff though that are speaking to it as well.
Well, fantastic. It's great to have you. We're gonna have our city staff go first.
Okay,
Hey, Brian, I'll just give a quick intro and then I'll turn things over to you.
that's great. Thanks.
All right. Good evening, committee members. Carson Hornsby, management analyst. The purpose of this agenda bill is to address a Fourth Amendment to the Comprehensive Garbage, Recyclables and Compostables Agreement with Waste Management. The reason that this amendment is coming forward is because King County has approved a restructuring of their rates at county disposal facilities, and those rates go into effect on January 1st, 2024. The county has delayed implementation of those rates in order to give cities and haulers the opportunity to amend their contracts to make sure that those contracts come into compliance with this new rate structure. And so Waste Management over the past several months has been working with the city and all their other jurisdictions in King County to put together the amendment template that you see as an exhibit on this agenda bill, as well as the different calculations that go into the new rates as well. So we do have Brian Halverson here from King County Strategic Planning Manager. He has put together a few slides for us tonight to just summarize the county's new rate structure and then some of the reasons why the rate structure is being implemented and put into place. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Brian.
Thanks, Carson, and thank you, council members, for the opportunity to be here and speak to this. I know time's short, so I'll sort of move through this quickly. Let's see here. So this first slide, actually, you know what? I'm not sure. Am I able to share my screen here?
You are.
Okay, let's see here. I think. There we go. Are you able to see that? Should be a map.
We can see that, yeah.
Okay, great, thanks. So a couple of things to point out here. One, you can see sort of the yellow icons there, yellow goldish icons. Those are the transfer stations and drop boxes that we run. as the county, and we run this transfer system. So that material then gets taken to the landfill primarily. That's the sort of teal or blue colored icon there in the middle. And we serve 37 cities and the unincorporated areas. Another thing to point out on this is that you can see in the mission and the vision that we have essentially sort of what I'd call a broken business model, right? We want to, in both of these, we talk about resource recovery and achieving zero waste, but our financial model is essentially 90% or more of our revenues come from waste that's disposed of the landfill, right? But we've launched the RePlus program, which is all about diverting waste. And so as we continue to divert that waste away from the landfill, we have a real problem with revenue, because a lot of our costs tend to be fixed costs as opposed to, so as that tonnage drops, we don't see a concurrent drop in the amount of expenditure that we have each year. A lot of that is, it's sort of like when you go to Starbucks and you buy a small coffee, if it's $2 or whatever, but if you go up to a slightly smaller or a slightly larger coffee, it's $2.50, right? So the expense comes in providing that first amount of coffee and all the expenses that sort of go along with it. And it's sort of like a water utility, and solid waste is no different. Essentially, to run a landfill and the transfer system, we have big capital projects and capital expenses that fix large proportions of our cost structure. This is sort of an example graph here. These aren't exact numbers, but they are correct essentially in magnitude. Basically, what you see here is the gray bars show what a rate path might look like over time as we build the 2 new transfer stations and the new area, the new area out of the landfill. But we don't see tonnage drop, right? So our rate goes up because we have additional debt service and what have you, and inflation and whatnot. But we don't see a dramatic increase in the rate until you see this sort of dashed green line there that says, as our tons fall from about just shy of 900,000 tons a year to somewhere closer to 500,000 tons a year, you can see that our tipping fee in 2026 would rise from about $220 to something like $400, which is problematic for a number of reasons. We can go into that if there's time a little bit later, and I'll kind of move through this one real fast. Basically, this is sort of an outline of the process that we went through. We had a task force that started in June of 2020. We hired FCS, which is a rate consultant. We took the same information through the advisory committees and then went to the council that approved the rate, our county council that approved the rate structure in March of 2022. And as Carson mentioned, we then delayed it for a year to provide additional time for cities to update their contracts. And we'll talk a little bit more here in a moment about why that was necessary. In creating this new rate structure, we wanted to keep a couple of things in mind. These are sort of the 4 highest level goals that we had when we were designing the rate structure: financial sustainability, encouraging conservation through rate design, right? So we didn't want to remove an incentive or a financial incentive to stop, we didn't want folks to stop recycling because it was, less expensive to throw things in the trash, etc. Equitable rates. We didn't want to shift the cost burden of disposal away from the way it is right now. And then transparency and simplicity to ensure rates are easy to understand and administer. So those were our main 4 goals. We looked at a variety of different options. There was a volume charge. So there was an account charge. And then there was this sort of fixed annual charge. And this was ultimately the one we decided to go with, both in terms, and this is based primarily on stakeholder feedback. And we'll talk again a little bit about what that is. But basically, what we did is say, okay, of the commercial revenue we have, let's say we have about $100 million in commercial revenue. That's roughly correct every year. And we need to collect this 100 million to pay our expenses for the year. And we divide that over the number of tons that we're expecting. And that's kind of how, roughly speaking, how you get our sort of per ton tipping fee. But as those tons go down, so goes down our revenue. So the idea was, well, let's carve off a portion of that, and it's about 20%. That's the gray bar, the gray portion of the bar on the right, and say this is going to be a fixed amount. We'll divide that across all the different cities and incorporated areas in our service area, and then the rest will still be captured by the tipping fee. So you'll notice that the sort of basic commercial tipping fee next year, the first year of implementation, will go down, and that's because that blue portion of the bar of the revenue we need to collect from the tipping fee is less, because we'll collect the rest of it through that fixed charge. And essentially we wanted to make sure that it was revenue neutral as well, right? That we weren't sort of implementing a new rate structure that also collected more money. The amount of money we need isn't really what's changing with rate structure. We just needed a more stable way to collect it. And it was chosen primarily, again, based on stakeholder feedback. It was by far the majority preferred option out of the three that we looked at. And it doesn't shift disposal costs from one city to another. What we found with the account fee, and even more so with the volume fee, is that depending on sort of the nature of the city, if you had more sort of large commercial accounts that had a lot of tonnage per account, those folks ended up paying less. Those cities that had high commercial concentration rate paid less than the more rural cities that had, or sort of bedroom communities of small, larger cities where most of the accounts are sort of, it's just a roll cart or two, and had fewer tons per account. So we didn't want to shift that burden. So basically what this does is we share out that fixed annual charge, or the FAC, that gray piece. We charge it out equally, we charge it out across the 37 cities and the unincorporated areas based on the percentage of total tons that they send us, right? So for instance, if the city of Kent provided 11% of the total tons for that year, then they would pay 11% of the FAC. Now, we do it 2 years in arrears, right? So it's going to be based on the tonnage split 2 years ago, because essentially, so for example, if we were setting the rates this year for 2024, we don't have all of 2023's tonnage, and we have none of 2024's tonnage, right? So we use the last full year of data. So for 2024, it's based on the splits in 2022. But each year that'll sort of shift. It'll always be 2 years in arrears. It maintains incentives to divert waste, right? So if your city reduces the amount of waste that they're sending to the landfill relative to the other cities and unincorporated areas in the system, then their percentage of the FAC will go down relative to the others, right? So if Kent institutes every other week garbage collection, for example, and their tonnage drops by 10% relative to everyone else, then they're paying 10% less on their FAC the next year. It was the easiest to calculate, essentially, that's not to say that there haven't been challenges with it. There have absolutely been some challenges with pinning down exactly which tonnages to include and which ones not. We're very close to finalizing that. But it is sort of, generally speaking, it tends to be easier to calculate than the account fee or the volume fee. And then it meets revenue stability and neutrality goals, right? We were able to collect that fixed amount, that gray portion of the revenue, regardless of how much the tonnage swings from year to year. So it makes our revenue a little bit more stable, and it doesn't collect more revenue than we would under the previous system. So it's also revenue neutral. And that essentially concludes my slides. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those at this time, and stop sharing here.
That was really well explained. Thank you very much. Councilman Holloway, whether you guys have questions?
Not a County.
Councilman Johnson?
Not at this time.
Okay. Mr. Halverson, thank you for that explanation, though. That was really enlightening for me. I guess that's all I got to say on that. You guys got nothing? All right, thank you. Appreciate that.
Very much.
Okay, well, then,
So, but.
Consent?
No, hold on.
oh, so you do have something.
I do have something.
I
not of
figured
King
you
County.
would.
King County is a third party to this agreement.
Okay.
Okay, our agreement is with Waste Management. Okay, so how is the agreement with Waste Management changing? Is there additional cost? What is the additional cost to the city? And what would be the additional change in rates to the households?
So we do have a couple of representatives from Waste Management here this evening, Han Kirkland and Carrie McNally. I believe they were just entered in as panelists. Would you mind repeating your questions just in case they didn't hear?
Well, I just really, the city has no contract nor MOU with King County. It is a pass through our engagement with Waste Management. This is a change to the contract with Waste Management. I want to know the impact of the change. Is there this facility charge? Is that coming directly to the city? Or is that going to be incorporated in the rates? How are the rates going to change as a result of this alteration?
Hi there, this is Carrie McNally from Waste Management. I'm a senior analyst and I've put together a lot of the rate changes and assisted with the contract amendments, and I think I can address that for you guys. Can you guys all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Really, what with the additional disposal costs, the customers won't see any major changes in their rates outside of what they would normally see as an increase from King County. So what Waste Management has done essentially is taken what the fixed annual charge would be from King County, and we've allocated that to each of our cities based on the tonnage that goes through King County. So looking at all the tonnage across all the cities, Snoqualmie would get their equal share of what that fixed annual charge is. And then that fixed annual charge, we essentially took and allocated it to a per ton rate. So right now, the disposal is a per ton tip fee. So we took that fixed annual charge, divided it by the number of tons to get an additional per ton tip fee to add on to what that variable charge currently is. So essentially right now, I honestly need to go and look at what the tip fee is. I believe it's about $168 at King County. So in 2024, that tip fee will reduce to approximately 150 something. Let me actually pull up the correct documentation for you guys, so I'm quoting the correct numbers. Just 1 second. Sorry about that. I'm not better prepared.
Carrie, I have that document if you'd like me to share it.
Okay, yeah, if you could share it, and then I could walk through the documentation with it there we go. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Perfect. Okay, so the 2023, if we actually look at line 21 there, the 2023 tip fee right now, Carson, can you scroll down a little bit? Yep, there we go, is $168.68. So if we scroll back up to the top, you'll see that in 2024, that estimated per ton tip fee is going to go down to $158.83 because we'll have that additional fixed annual charge on there. So the amount that King County has allocated for the fixed annual charge for WM is $8.9 million. And if we look at the estimated commercial tonnage for WM that King County has estimated, we have 259,000 tons. And then we look at what the city of Snoqualmie's estimated commercial tonnage would be based on allocations. from prior years. So that's actually, Carson, if you want to go to that FAC allocation tab, you can kind of see where down on the bottom left. Yeah. Go ahead and click down on that. Yeah, there we go. So this shows us our 2020 through 2022 tonnage that goes through each city. And if you scroll down past line 48 for waste management, you can see all the tonnage that's gone through King County for the various cities that waste management allocation there. So we had 4966 in 2020 up to 4622 in 2022. So in column N, you can see that our estimated total tonnage for 2024 is at 259,000. So if we allocate that 1.79% based on the tonnage of Snoqualmie divided by WM's total tonnage, we'd get 4632 estimated tons, and that would equal Snoqualmie's fixed annual charge of 159,000 right there. So what we did is we converted that into a per ton rate. So if you want to go back to that disposal fee calc tab. So we've converted that to a per ton rate. So if we take that 159,000 divided by that 4632, it comes up to $34.44. So that is what we're referring to as the composite rate of 185.27 when we take that 34.44 and add it to that per ton tip fee at the top of the page of 150.83. So with that being said, Carson, if you want to go to the attachment B. A portion of customers' rates are currently allocated based on a pounds per unit average. So we've used that allocation, and this is how their rates are currently calculated. So every year when we have a disposal increase come through for King County, we go ahead and we plug in that disposal increase, and it will calculate a disposal adjustment percentage. So this year essentially won't be, or sorry, 2024 won't be any different, because what we'll do is right now our 2023 disposal rate is 168.68. It will increase to that 185.27. So customers would just see a 9.8% increase in their disposal fee portion of their rate. Now, just as a reminder, customers don't actually see that. So the total service fee is what a customer sees, but that rate is broken up into a disposal fee and a collection fee. So really, the customers aren't going to see any impact of this rate change on their bills, on their invoices. They're just going to know that it's going to be an increase from King County.
But
Really,
overall, their bill is going to increase by about 9.8%. And
it's going to increase by 9.8% for that disposal component. So if you look at like here, this for a normal average, on average, we have most customers have a 32 gallon. Their total service is 32.29. Well, what happens is that 9% is just calculated on that disposal fee portion. So they're going to get 9% on that $6.06. So that's where they see the increase. And then the collection fee is where you get the CPI increase. So essentially, we're just passing through the percentage increase from 168.68 in disposal to 185.27. And that's just based on allocations from Snoqualmie's tonnages going through King County and what their portion of that fixed annual charge will be.
okay, in regards to the comment that larger customers with larger tonnage, we're given a slightly less fee, and that issue was corrected in the allocation of this fixed charge. But from your conversation, I'm led to believe that Waste Management was allocated its own fixed charge, not Snoqualmie. And then you sub-allocated out to the cities you service.
Yes, correct. So Waste Management's allocated a fixed annual charge. We'll pay in advance 8.9 million a year, and we allocate that to all of our cities based on their tonnage that goes through King County.
Right, but I don't see a reduction in that fixed charge rate for Snoqualmie as a result of its proportional, the King County's proportional allocation to cities it services. So, okay. Understood. Like you said, it's a 9.8% just on the disposal fee section of the charge. Okay.
Well,
Correct.
I might be a little dense here. I'm just looking at the numbers for the 32 gallon there, and the disposal fee. I see the increase, the 60 cent increase on the disposal fee year over year from 23 to 24. The collection fee, I thought you said had the CPI connection to its rate, but I don't see a difference in the rate. That rate didn't change.
Yeah. We don't have the CPI for you guys yet, and I think you guys might be on a calendar year, so we wouldn't have that until a later date. So really, this
There will
rate sheet
be-
is just
Okay. So
right. There will be an increase there. Yeah.
okay,
This rate
just
sheet
going up
was just
60
for the
cents.
purposes of demonstrating the fixed annual charge. So normally we'd put a little, like if a CPI is 4 or 5%, we'd plug it in that I-5 cell right there, and you'd see the collection fee component increase as well.
But if it were say 5%, that'd be another $1.25.
Yeah, it would be 5% on the 25.63.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Chair.
Oh, sorry, Madam Mayor.
So on your chart, it shows effective as of January 1st, 2023, there was an increase, and then again, January 2024. So are you implementing effective January 2024, both the rates? Or are we going to pay retroactive to 2023 for January?
Oh, no, this is just your current rate sheet as of 2023. And then we rolled forward to 2024 to demonstrate what it would look like. So
Okay.
it would be effective January 1, 2024 for the new rates.
Okay. And I thought that our agreement just allowed pass through for King County costs. Why are we doing an amendment?
The amendment is just to demonstrate to you guys how we would calculate the fixed annual charge of that King County cost. So essentially their tip fee has gone down, but in replacement of that, they've instituted that fixed annual charge, which still should be passed through to as a disposal cost to the customer.
So where before you were passing through the tip fee, and
Yep.
we wouldn't have needed an amendment to do that as a change. But now you're passing through the tip fee as well as this fixed facility charge. And the amendment is actually making that distinction between the two separate charges coming from King County and how they were allocated out to Snoqualmie, and I assume to each of the cities under your contracts.
Correct. Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Johnson, anything further?
Not from me.
All right, thank you very much. Then how does this one go across? Consent? Do you think everybody's going to want to talk about this one?
I'm debating. Why don't you start out consent? Let's see what happens.
Yeah, we'll let Jim pull it off. All right, yeah, we'll put this one on consent.
Agreed.
Okay. All right, AB 23-108, awarding contract for phase 1 of the Sandy Cove Park Riverbank Restoration Project. Thank goodness. I have been terrified about that park just washing away.
Absolutely. Let me get a screen share going. Okay, yeah. So I'm Dylan Gamble, and I'm CIP manager with Parks Public Works Department. Good evening, Mayor and Public Works Committee. Here to present AB 23-108, the contract that would allow us to do some repair work on the Sandy Cove Bank. This is a project that will have 2 phases. The kind of reason why we're doing 2 phases, I'll get into in a second. This first phase is the 2023 aspect, and then we'd be looking to do a 2024 aspect. So you can kind of think of the 2 phases, what we're doing this summer, we're going to work on next summer. That is, if you consider the end of this late summer, gets a little tricky. But so I want to first kind of call out this potential point of confusion, which is that we have 2 CIP items that have Sandy Cove in the name. One is a park restoration project, and one is a Riverwalk revetment type project. So what we're talking about here is the revetment work. And if you were to go look for that CIP item, it's going to be in the utility section in the back of the pamphlet book CIP plan. And specifically, it'll be called the Sandy Cove Park Riverbank Restore and Outfall Project. So if you want to look for the numbers exactly, that's where it is, not to be confused with the park restoration. Sandy Cove Phase 1 is an effort to begin the revetment process with the existing permits and the reality of permit timing that we were within, given the project's difficulty of in-water work and other fish habitat type permitting that we have to get through the state, and the difficulties it could be to prepare those in time. The design process itself is also rather complicated. Once we got towards, I would call it April of this year, we determined that we were not going to make it in a complete permitted way to begin the full project this summer. And so in an effort to protect costs into next summer and our future, we decided to implement a phase 1 approach, which we are targeting right now. That effort is essentially to maintain the bank as we see it at its current location. And I'll show you a picture that's pretty staggering that kind of showcases that. And the main reason why I would want to do that is, one, to protect any sort of high damage events this fall or winter. If there's a high flood event, or even just a certain type of flood event, there can be pretty sizable channel migration, which is what you're already starting to see. You know what? I'll just show you the picture. It's way better than me talking.
Can I ask you a question while you're finding that? When you took us on the field trip and you were telling us about this, I remember you saying something about, from whatever point we established that this project is a project, we get to use whatever bank we have at that point as what we can restore.
Yep.
Is that right?
That's still correct. Yeah.
And did we lock in the bank yet?
We locked in at I believe it's 2017 year.
We locked it in way back when.
Way back when, exactly.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
all right.
The critical permit for that for us is going to be a JARPA permit through the Army Corps of Engineers. When we applied, we essentially locked in our, review us at this baseline. We've since been working through different versions of what the revetment would do, how it might best achieve that. The Army Corps has opinions on it. They ask other jurisdictions to weigh in. It's quite a lengthy process. And so we've been revising our concept as we go. And when we applied in 2017, we locked that in, but we got closer and closer to this summer when we were hoping to get the project done entirely, realizing that we were not going to be able to get started in the full force of it. So to kind of show this map, which I know you guys are looking at up here, it's kind of small and colors are difficult, but this blue here, this is the 2005 bank. So quite a ways up here. And then we're looking, this is what I think is most staggering, the black line with the bars here. This is our current bank as of February, but 2022's bank is this dark blue line. So quite a loss just in this last year. And then you can see the red is the following year. Basically every year that goes, you can see exactly the pattern of erosion. So that is the impetus of the decision-making for going for a phase 1. And I can explain some of the details of that first, but I think this picture showcases why it's important that we got going on something. There's a lot of concern that channel, as it's migrating here. If we were to lose some of these trees and some of the roots to support it, there's a slough further back this way. I know that this mouse moving is not always the most helpful in these moments, but if the channel migrated there, there'd be some pretty serious impacts to infrastructure, to about a dozen properties, as well as some infrastructure for us with regards to our outfall, stormwater outfall that comes off of Falls Avenue and King Street. So that's kind of like the importance of why we're there. And if it's okay with you all, I'd like to show you just a rough concept of what we're talking about here, as what is phase one, and then in theory, what does phase two approximately look like. So here's kind of the location of what phase one, where it would be located. You can see it's within the red dotted line, so I'll get that in a sec. Phase one is just this here, this darker, well, it just looks like a blob on your screen, but this darker hashing. And then the red dotted line is that more traditional revetment type concept that we'd be looking at next year. We do have some initial designs of that, but when we identified the time constraints, we pivoted the design efforts to get a phase one implemented. Part of that is because we want to make sure that all of what we put into phase one this summer gets completely buried into the project. So this winter's defensive work, and then we will build next summer the phase two project, and that will be totally encumbering the phase.
So phase one is like a tourniquet on the limb.
That's a way to put it, for sure. I'll kind of show you the design. It's rather simple compared to phase two. It doesn't include a lot of the debris catchment concepts, but it's essentially changing the slope of the bank from being far less steep than it is. It includes a lot of what the mouse cursor is on is a gravel, like a washed gravel. Slope down to meet the water, then use sandbags at the bottom with some, what they're called super sacks on this demo, but we actually tested them. They're a type of, they look like a burlap bag, a burlap sack fabric that's significantly denser and heavier. It's dimpled, and we wrap about a yard of gravel in each one of those into a big sack type structure, and that protects the toe of the revetment for this year. So that's kind of the baseline idea. There's some grass that will get tossed in at the top to do some effort of kind of tacking the top core fabric down, but there'll also be stakes that will be used to try to protect it as well. That's the side layout. It's pretty simple because it doesn't have any spurs like the other designs do. It has no log jam spurs, no rock spurs, nothing of that nature. It will capture any existing log debris that is in the bank area right next to, so let's say right where that super sack is, we can place the gravel, the sandbags, the super sacks around existing in-banked logs, which is good for stabilization efforts for this project. So those will be captured. There's a few, you can see them in the upper diagram here, and then we're gonna really just have to do it as needed because sites can change even between us talking about it now and when they get to the construction window. That's kind of the background on why phase one, what phase two could look like. And in theory, we will have to come back around once we've installed phase one, gotten all the survey material to show exactly where we are. That will give us a lot more data on the fill amounts and things of that nature. And I guess the last thing I want to call out is that while this is an effort to stop the bank erosion, this also saves a significant amount of money on fill. So if we lose a lot of material of this bank, next year we'll just have to bring it back in. And this time it'll be on a truck, and trucking in material is pretty substantially expensive. And this project is in an effort to try to protect as much of what we already have so we don't have to truck it in later. And I could pause there if you want to talk more about the concept, but I can also get into the contract details in the bid process too. But I want to leave room in case there's anything there.
Just curious here, with this phase one, if I'm understanding it correctly, it's to try to stabilize the segment that seems to be most vulnerable to breaking through and connecting the slough. Is that correct?
It's definitely part of it. It's where we're seeing the fastest erosion
Right.
on the revetment. A substantial amount of erosion is happening right here, and also deepening of the channel too. So I gotta admit, the hydraulics of all of this are very complicated, and we've hired really wonderful engineers to do that job. But what they've done is shown us where we would have the best bang for our buck in an emergency type deployment of a revetment as possible.
And so then my follow-up then was getting a little bit more into the hydrology is with that more shallow slope that seems to me that it would reduce the volume of the channel currently. I was just curious if that would increase any erosion anywhere else. Essentially, would that increase the rate of erosion somewhere else? And sort of to what degree, if it would.
Yeah, this is a really difficult answer for me to give because every single thing seems to have little changes and also.
Yeah.
But what we're seeing right now and over the last 5 or 10 years or so is significant erosion in certain locations. And the intent of the final design, the full build out with spurs, things of that nature, will slow the water down closer to the bank. And so once those are installed, we would see less erosion in the nearby area because of the slowdown of the bank, and therefore it's more sediment drop quicker. However, this phase one, I'm not exactly sure that it won't have some impacts in the near area, but not nearly as much as what we're currently experiencing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So wait, does the whole river slow down?
Just this area, it's water's very
So,
dynamic.
so does it speed up on the other side of the river?
No,
'Cause
it's
we got, I think we had, last time I was there, I think we left a bank over there too. Right? On the other side of the river? Do you
Well,
remember seeing one? I
there's-
saw
yeah,
one.
there's another side of the river,
Yeah.
but it's the interior curve of the river. So erosion usually happens on the exterior curve, which this is it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why you in essence what they call armor the bank to prevent that erosion.
Right, but further down the river, before it gets to the falls, that side becomes the exterior.
Oh, as the river meanders, yeah, it will alternate sides, interior, exterior. This won't change the overall flow rate of the river. The flow is the flow. It may locally adjust things. You'd have to get a hydrologist to say what the effect is further on down. But overall, it won't change the volume flow of the river at any particular location. Okay, it'll just harden this bank so it's not scouring in.
I think that's a good idea.
Question though, I mean, so this is $434,000.
Mhm.
Does this become incorporated into as part of phase two, or is it just a 1-year thing and we're gonna have to rip it out for phase two?
No, completely variable. All of the materials were chosen for either their either incorporation into the bank, either they represent what we were going to do in the first place, or they are not going to inhibit how the full designs would be implemented. So totally like within the phase two
It will be
scope.
incorporated in as part of the design of phase two.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's not a 1-year done and gone.
Nope.
So that's
Yep.
1, 2, and if I catch you right, you think there is some savings in that, again, this stabilizes that bank
Mhm.
and therefore you won't have to buy more fill with the phase two for whatever erosion occurs over the next year.
Yeah. I don't know what that is exactly.
Right,
Right,
only
but
God knows.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
And then, so then on the overall project finances, whatever, and 434,000 now,
Mhm.
that should offset some costs in phase two. But it's somewhat of an additional cost. So do we expect the expectation of the overall project still will be within the CIP budget we've identified, or at the end of the project, are we expecting to be over under how?
difficult to say. There's a few moving parts. And so one of them is we have the contract with the designers. It's approximately 250,000. So 250 on top of the 430 plus some taxes. Fast math takes me to about 700, getting close. That's phase one and the design work of phase two, which leaves us somewhere in the ballpark of 2 million change. The reason why I say I still don't really know is it's nice that we would know how much we have to spend, how much remaining we have to spend. However, we have a grant that has not answered us yet on whether we could receive it. And if we do receive that award, we would want to take advantage of all the money that they might bring to the table. I don't know if that is, but essentially we will make the project meet the money we have remaining, whether that includes the grant or not. And if there's any sort of like critical juncture where we feel that the project needs more money than what we have scoped, we'll have to bring it back first. Or we'll want to bring it back so that it's neither a surprise or shocking. And then we'd actually know roughly how much we're going to go over. The other part of it is that just like with this project, we go to bid and sometimes we don't exactly know. Even our engineers' estimates can't be perfect. They're pretty close on this one.
No, my question was an estimate question.
Yeah.
Okay, but I do want you guys to start having that long view of,
Yeah.
we're doing these things and things are still looking good or not. Let me echo part of what you said in my words, and it's not what you said, but I'm going to spend it. If I have it, I'm going to spend it. And if it comes over that, I'm going to come back for money. I'm really looking for you to spend what you need to do what is needed here.
Mhm.
Our money, their money, who's ever. And if it comes in under, great. If it comes in over, that's the conversation we have. But or what are we after? Let's spend the money for what we're after here.
Yeah.
And not more. So that may not have been your intent. Just caution you on words trigger Holloway. Okay. That was, and then the other one was, you got on the bid tab, you go from 730, I think, was the high bid to this low bid was 437. It's quite a spread. Any concerns? What, do we have the mechanism? Is this a firm fixed price?
This is, let me pull up this thing here. This is a firm fixed price, but change orders we could expect. I don't think this project is likely to run into things of that nature. The project is rather simple because this isn't full phase two. Phase two, I'd expect much more chaos. And this one I'm not so scared of, outside of just they have a limited window of work. And that's the biggest fear. That's why we're moving as quickly as we are from notice to bid to now. That's the biggest fear factor in this, but it wouldn't mean cost overruns. It would mean stopping the project because we are done timing window. There's a flood coming, something of that nature, or the permit limits us to maybe we get an extension, but flood waters, we can't do it. That kind of thing is the only thing that would stop us, and that would only cut money down. So in terms of this company, we look through their past projects. They've done projects just like this all over, mostly in South King County, but also into North Pierce County as well. They seem to be very capable. We've worked with them in the past, not me personally, but the city has itself. And then the other companies are all excellent. Sometimes it just is curious like that. This tracks with our engineer's estimate. Our engineer's estimate was, I believe, 350 to 450 with some range for mobilization costs, depending on how far they are, things of that nature. This contract, the Road Art came in more or less on track.
And from the financing point that Councilman Holloway was approaching us from what I am understanding you saying, if we don't do this, our costs are going to go up considerably because we're going to have to replace a lot more land than we would be.
There's significant risk.
Yeah, I don't know.
Risk.
I would guess yes. Yeah. I would guess yes.
I'm not asking to be.
Yeah.
We
No,
could have
I
a
don't have
dry
a
winter.
yardage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
No
I'm not
yardage
counting on it.
guess. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Councilman Johnson, anything, any questions you had?
Just one more thing. I was just wondering if there was any concern that this winter could be strong enough, maybe because it's an El Nino year, that if we didn't do this project and we held it off, that the erosion could actually punch through and connect to the slough? Or do we have enough there that it would hold?
Um,
Most likely.
we're essentially doing the most we can do given the permit constraints that we are allowed to activate right now. Anything more, we're running into the big permits that we can't get a hold of. Otherwise, we would have just jumped straight to phase 2. Essentially, this is about as much as we can throw down right now, and there seems to be pretty good evidence that this will be sufficient at
Great.
this time.
All right. Anything else that you need to tell us, Don? Or Mr.
I was just
Gamble?
going to mention revetments are all over the Snoqualmie River. And as you were saying earlier, they're on the outer bank. The location I think you're referencing, we have an existing revetment there. And it's
Yeah, further down, like near the mill.
Yeah.
The mill site, that curve there.
where the roundabout is, before the roundabout,
right.
just
Okay.
upriver a little bit. There's a revetment there. You can more or less guess on not every corner, but just about every corner up this river, there's some sort of bank armory done either by the city or the county, or it was done by a company at a different era. But something
Where's
of
the
that-
oldest one?
I have no
How
idea.
old? Can you tell me how old the oldest one is?
I would guess
Snoqualmie River?
Near us.
early
near-
1900s.
Yeah, I can tell you there are some with old trucks sticking out of the mud,
Yeah,
just threw stuff in.
just like we did the repair on the Park Avenue revetment, had vehicles in it.
Wait, we can do it with just garbage?
No, we can't.
This could help us with our whole
Our
waste management thing.
predecessors some time ago had different considerations.
I'm just asking, how do these revetments, how long do we expect these revetments to hold up?
I think different engineering techniques and better understanding of how water works have given us a better understanding that the ones full of cars didn't last very long, 10 to 20 years maybe, and it depends on the weather conditions and all sorts of things that we don't have the ability to predict. The ones that we're implementing now have a much more extensive structure. We're working our way away from the riprap wall, or that's like that old classic bank armoring is like a bulkhead that you'd see like on an ocean. And we're working towards more controlling of high flow, high water events by slowing down the water nearest the bank, including collection mechanisms that try to gather woody debris as it comes down. As the science has changed and shown different benefits to these practices, we've started to implement them. You'll see that across King County's science as well as ours. We basically will match up with King County's efforts here. They're doing pretty significant amount of revetment type work through Snoqualmie, Snohomish watershed, but all over King County. Pacific Northwest is pretty in the know about this type of work right now. There's lots going on. So it's always changing. And I imagine we'll see further changes, maybe even further efforts to capture more woody debris. It's beneficial to wildlife, fish, things of that nature. So you see it a lot in salmon bearing habitats as well. So it's a long way of saying I think ours are going to last longer than the ones with cars in them. Yeah.
I know you don't like to make predictions, but
22 years now.
but you're gonna predict that
Yeah,
these will do
yeah.
better than if we threw cars in it.
I think,
Okay, all
yeah, thinking through the project has yielded the rewards that we're after.
Wow. I see why they call you Dylan Gamble.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're really going
No
out
risks.
out on a limb there. Good for you. All right. Any other questions?
Any engineer that gives you 100% guarantee, run. He's doing the proper answer as an engineer.
All right. Do we let Jim take this one off too?
Yeah.
Okay. Consent.
Yep, I agree.
All right. All right. Thank you, Dylan.
Absolutely. Job.
AB 22-109, introduction of the ADA transition plan.
Evening, Mayor, council members. I have 5 minutes, so I will blow through this presentation as rapidly as possible.
Should have 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Let's skip.
You'll
the pre-
blow through faster.
Let's skip the presentation then. This is just an introduction to the ADA Transition Plan, American with Disabilities Act. I should start by saying it's a federal requirement. right now, it's a plan that we've generated, we've created, assessing all of our curb ramps and pedestrian signals in the city. And then ranking them A, B, C, D, essentially from best to worst, compliant, not compliant, super not compliant, or just not existent, essentially. And then how we're going to work to solve that problem. It's essentially a maintenance item. You're never going to be 100% ADA compliant. It's a moving target. There, by the time we could ever hope to fix all of our ramps and do everything, there's going to be a new rule saying that everything you've done is out of compliance again. So essentially, you just have to keep tackling them, keep making your city better, and that's what we're proposing. And essentially, we are now open for public comment for this. So we have a month open for public comment before I'll bring it to Council of the Whole on the end of September for final adoption. In the plan outlines all of the problem curb ramps and then also how we're going to pay for it. And it's essentially projects that are existing. We already have it budgeted in the CIP. There's a ADA program in the CIP, and I think we just got cut off. Is that right? No? Okay. But yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Any questions? Yeah, any questions for the 15 seconds?
Well, can we have this discussion in 2 weeks?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's open. It's open for public comment right now, and
Okay,
then we can
good.
continue the discussion.
No,
in
I
2
have
weeks.
questions. I just don't want to, we're out of time.
Yeah. And you
I
can even,
wanna
you can,
talk to you.
you can read the plan and have better informed questions
Yep.
in 2 weeks.
Okay. So then this one, we're not moving forward. We're keeping it here.
There was no action.
No
There wasn't
action.
To move
Okay,
forward.
alright,
It's just
alright.
making us aware of the open public comment and of the ADA plan.
Exactly.
All right, great. Thank you. Okay, community survey update.
2 minutes.
I'll move fast.
How did we get so far behind? What did you do?
I asked
I'm
questions.
not logged into the meeting, so hold on.
No PowerPoint.
No PowerPoint. Okay.
Go.
I'm going to email you this PowerPoint later. We're doing a community survey. We haven't done a full community survey since 2017. We're post-COVID. It's time. We want to poll our residents, see how their quality of life is here and how they feel we do at providing services to them. And essentially it is a scorecard for ourselves. It'll be benchmarks for the future metrics to gauge how we're progressing over time. My goal is to do these every biennium, maybe a scaled down version, but it's a great way to gauge our performance levels with our residents. For you, it came in under budget for what I had budgeted. Since I'm at Parks and Public Works, it did come in under budget.
Good.
And we're part of a small cities pilot program. So we're also getting 2 years of a portal through this company called Poco. So if we get these results back and you say, I want to dive deeper into that, we have a platform ready to do that with pre-drafted templates. We can create our own as well. I'll be real quick. They're going to send out 3,000 randomly selected addresses from the address rolls with the United States Postal Service. Cross-check to ensure the addresses are actually within our city limits, not in unincorporated King County. They will be getting 3 different mailings to remind them to take the survey. The second one will include a paper survey, or URL to take it online with a passcode. As an extra randomization, we are asking the households that are selected, the person in the household who is over 18 and has the most recent birthday. That's who we're going to request take the survey. Goal is
man.
5% margin of error, so that's why we're sending out 3,000. We did well at achieving this the last time we used this company in the national community survey. So pretty tight set of questions. We don't have an ability to change. It's going to get us a lot of data. We can change specific words or omit things that aren't applicable. I'm going to send you all this tonight. If you see things that maybe weren't covered there, that you have a topic you think is worth exploring, shoot me back an email. I'm coming to committees presenting this so that we can stay on our timeline. So these are going to start going out to the community in early September. We should have our results in November. We will get a dashboard for you all to explore, for residents to explore. The company will give you a presentation in November with the results. What else did I forget from yesterday?
And so it's the same company that did our survey in
Yes,
2017.
it's the same company
said-
under a different name.
They will actually benchmark then against the results in 2017.
So we'll have a little bit of,
She just saved an email.
Woe to you if you get Mabel, because she complains about everything.
yeah, I think it's going to be good. I'm excited to do this. It's something I've been planning to do since I joined the city, and
good thing.
Carson's helping assist me on this, as is Gail, and we are working through what they need, and we're excited to get the data.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, and with that, we are out of time. Yeah.
The only urgent thing under project updates is the paving. We're grinding the parkway this week. We're gonna be paving the other lanes next week, weather dependent. Dana's gonna be releasing a detailed release to the public, because unfortunately, we're gonna interact with first day of school and school
Oh, man.
opening. So please pay attention to the social media posts. Understand that if weather happens, we can't pave. The schedule will stay the same. It just will slide on the day. We appreciate everybody's patience and flexibility.
All right. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We are adjourned. Thank you.